listening to Your Secret is Safe with Me, non-judgmental talk about infidelity with Dr. Marie Murphy. If you're looking for new perspectives on complicated relationship issues, you've come to the right place.
Days go by, they're crawling by.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Marie Murphy. I'm a relationship coach, and I specialize in helping people who are having affairs make decisions about how to move forward in a way that's truly right for them. On this show, we feature tools and guidance from my coaching practice, as well as advice and perspectives from other professionals whose work pertains to romantic relationships and the challenges associated with them. I have Joyce Swaving here with me today, and let me tell you, Joyce does some really cool work. Her background is in nonviolent communication, and she provides body positive, sex positive intimacy education to people of all ages, including high school students and senior citizens, giving younger people and folks in their golden years the information and tools they need to explore intimacy, sexuality, and connection is deeply rewarding for Joyce. In addition to this kind of work, Joyce is also involved in promoting racial and social justice and is currently the president of the Greater Rancho Santa Margarita Interfaith Council. Joyce, it's a pleasure to have you here. Before we get to today's conversation, I want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Marie Murphy, PhD. That's me. I provide shame-free, blame-free, non-judgmental relationship coaching. You can talk to me about the things that seem too weird or too messy or too stigmatized to share with your best friend or your spouse or even your therapist. To learn more about me and my practice, go to mariemurphyphd.com. Today, Joyce and I are going to talk about having difficult conversations. Hi, Joyce.
Hi.
Okay. In today's conversation, we're going to focus on the specific example of having a discussion in which you tell your spouse or your partner that you've had an affair or you're having an affair. But the tips we discuss will be broadly applicable to conversations about other topics as well. Communication is one of the most important of all human activities and also one of the most challenging of all human activities. So Joyce, before we delve into that, can you tell us about nonviolent communication? What is it and what are its key principles?
Sure. So nonviolent communication is about compassion, being able to connect with your truth. And it is a work that was started by Marshall Rosenberg in the 1960s. He did a lot of peace work internationally, and it helps people really tap into what's alive with them and recognize their feelings and what's happening in their universe without judgment.
Cool. How does it help us broach difficult topics?
Well, I think one of the most helpful things is what Marshall calls observation. So if we look at our intention and start to pay attention to what's really alive in us, to take a moment and to be with that, and to recognize what we're feeling and what the deep need might be underlying that, then we can then have conversations that are not as triggered and kind of build the path to understanding instead of ones that are highly charged with judgment for self or the other.
Yeah, that's amazing. You know, often we hear that in many conversations, we're just waiting for our turn to talk rather than truly listening, or looking for ways to prove the other person wrong rather than ways to understand the other person.
Right. And the focus of much of our languaging right now is to blame or to even shame someone else. And the fear of being truthful with what's really alive for us at that given moment, and being able to express that in a way that still keeps connection alive.
Yeah. Yeah. Such an important goal for our times. Okay. So let's talk about preparing to have a conversation that we anticipate will be difficult, or preparing to share something with someone that we think that they're not going to want to hear. Like, for instance, hi, honey, guess what? We're in a monogamous relationship, but actually I've been seeing someone else. What's the first step here? How do we begin?
So this, can be a really highly charged conversation. So, what I would recommend is first really be clear on what is your intention in sharing this information, and really being able to sit with that. Are you able to articulate what is alive for you, and are you open to how that person might receive this news, and to be able to sit with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, something that we've talked about is that the words cheating, adultery, and infidelity are really loaded words. And these are really, loaded concepts or loaded experiences for a lot of people. So, how can we navigate that as we're preparing to disclose something to someone we care about?
So just the word cheating, right? Or infidelity, just those words alone, if someone were to hear that, it almost like puts your hackles up.
Hmm.
Oh, not to, cocoon the experience, but to soften it in a way that it can be received and be heard in a way that you're intending. If you're wanting to share this with your partner, that you have stepped out of your relationship and not kept up with that promise of monogamy, is, how would you even set the table for that, to make sure that the timing is ripe for the person who's going to hear it, is to make sure that you set aside sacred space for that conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So this is a really interesting point, because I always suggest that people think specifically about the kinds of things they will say in the conversation, not that those words will necessarily come out of their mouths exactly as they plan them. But if you're planning on disclosing to your partner that you've stepped out of the relationship, or you've done something that goes against the commitments you made to your partner, what are the kinds of words or what are the kinds of language that you suggest people use?
Well, I think one of the most important things is that you use language that fits for you, that is
Mhm.
really a reflection of who you are. And to just, one of the things I tell people is just put your fingers on your pulse and just feel that, and what's happening and what's alive, and to make sure that you're calm enough to have this kind of conversation. And if your intention is to stay in that relationship, is, can there be some sweet languaging and just the tone of your voice? I need to share something very difficult with you right now. And I can imagine the different scenarios on how you're going to receive this. And I'm really concerned about it, but I really feel like this is the time that I need to share this with you.
That's beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, I love the part about owning your own feelings and experience. And that's something that I always suggest that people do before they sit down to talk. If you're nervous or scared, or if you're feeling any uncomfortable emotion, to take the time to deal with that a little bit on your own. And then, like you say, when you begin the conversation with your partner, having found a time that works for everybody, having found the sacred space, that you share with your partner how you're feeling. Like, I have something to tell you that I'm really nervous about sharing.
Right,
And I'm afraid that you're not going to like what I have to say.
right.
Yeah.
That you can imagine that you're not going to like what I have to say, right? And even though this is going to be really difficult and it may cause you pain, I still think it's really important for me to be truthful with you right now.
Yeah. Absolutely. Let's talk about some good reasons to be truthful with your partner.
Well, there's a myriad of reasons, right? Because if we hold our truth in, then we're not transparent with ourselves. And how can we be transparent with our partner?
Hmm.
And if we are stepping out of that relationship, is it has already impacted that partner, right? Unbeknownst to them. And if you are longing to stay in that relationship, is to have the courage to be truthful and to be vulnerable can be the first steps to understanding and perhaps a path to some kind of recognition and repair.
Yeah. What are some of the broader benefits of being honest with your partner and vulnerable with your partner?
I think any of us who've ever lived with an untruth, it truly weighs us down,
Mm-hmm.
takes a capacity away from us to be fully present and alive with that person. It's a wall that's created, not only the stepping out piece, but the living in the untruth and the fear of reprisal or the what if takes a lot of energy as well.
Sure. Absolutely. Do you ever think that there are times when it is acceptable or even appropriate to not tell a truth?
Well, that's a tricky one, right? I mean, I personally believe that that's everyone's own path to walk is if someone feels like it would do more damage to tell the truth, then that is their perspective. And I would hold that for that person if that they really felt that that was the quote unquote best strategy. Is I would want to encourage someone to be truthful, but that isn't always someone's choice, right?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so here we are in the conversation. We've decided we're going to tell our special someone that we have stepped out of the bounds of the relationship. We've found a good time to talk. We've told them that, there's something that we need to say that we're nervous about and we're concerned about how they're going to feel about what we tell them. Then what? How do you speak your truth without shame or blame?
So I think the key there is, why am I choosing to share this with my partner, my hopefully beloved at this moment, right? And if we can stay in that kind of sweet energy is, I'm afraid of how this has already impacted our relationship. And once I tell you my truth is, how will it further impact our relationship?
Mm-hmm.
If the desire is to stay in connection and to stay in that relationship, is just to stay really clear on, I'm needing to share this with you, although this brings up a lot of fear and concern and wondering how you are even going to be able to hold all of this. Yet I feel like unless I do this, the relationship does not have a future in which I can be my true self and you're not responding to me as I really am.
Mm-hmm. 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 That's really powerful. What do you think about apologies? That's a broad question.
Yeah, well, if one apologizes about a behavior before someone even has a chance to allow what they're being told to percolate for them, it can create further disconnect.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If that is what you're longing for, is to be kind of exonerated or to be quote unquote forgiven, then that energy is going to really kind of create more distance between your partner, instead of just really, I'm needing to share my truth with you and have some deep sorrow around the pain that it's causing our relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. So often, I hear people say things like, well, I said I was sorry, but they were still mad. And it's like, well, yeah, I mean, it may not be that just saying sorry is the end of the matter.
Right.
Yeah.
And then oftentimes if the person is anticipating or expecting, oh, okay, or all right, I accept your apology, and they don't get that response, then they can go into judgment about that person. What's wrong with you for not forgiving me? Here I am. I've been humble enough to tell you. Then they wrong that person for not responding in the way that they were hoping.
Yes, absolutely. It's like, well, I did this hard thing. I confessed to you and I was brave and I was truthful. So you should forgive me. Not so much.
And versus being able just to be with that person, perhaps they're shocked, right?
Yeah.
It's likely that they're angry, that they're deeply sad, that they might even feel unmoored and like, what happened to the trust? What now? And to be able just to sit with that and hear that and experience and come alongside that pain.
Yeah. What are some tips that you have for staying non-reactive in a situation where someone else is being very reactive?
So I think that comes with kind of time and really being able to be connected to what's alive in you. Is, if you're just shared some news that your partner is not reacting to in a way that you were hoping, and you were longing for them to just kind of look at you and say, oh, wow. And instead, my concern is for some partners, if you share your truth, how physically safe are they?
Absolutely.
And you asked the question earlier, are there times when you shouldn't tell your truth? If your physical well-being could be jeopardized, make sure that you have a backup plan, make sure that you're safe, because some people react in a very physical way, right?
Yeah.
Either harsh words or even with, beatings or who knows what. So we want to be, cognizant of that as well.
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely. That's so important.
charged. Yeah.
Yeah. And I also just want to point out that this, it's often assumed that men are the ones committing violence against women. And that may be true at times, but it also goes in other directions as well.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've done some work with couples who have gone through the court system with domestic violence. And, unfortunately, violence is an equal opportunity kind of situation. If people get highly charged, they haven't been taught kind of ways to diffuse just that deep pain and anger, and it becomes and then they become physical with that because that's what they know, or that's kind of their go-to response. It could be tragic.
Yeah, definitely. So along these lines, is it reasonable to expect anything when we've told someone something that they find very upsetting? Let's say that you're telling your partner that you've stepped out of the relationship. What is it okay to expect from them in that situation?
So expectation, just that word alone, right, is so highly charged.
Yeah.
I like to use the word, what am I hoping for? This is what I'm hoping for. This is what I'm longing for in my heart space, is I'm longing to still be connected to you. I'm longing for some understanding. I'm longing for some empathy and being willing to be empathetic with you. And I think that's almost an alien language, right? It's, well, you better do this, or you should do that, right? Versus if you were saying, just in a sweeter way, right? My hope is that you can hear my truth and know how deeply sad I am to cause pain to you.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
Now,
so far we've been, sorry, go ahead.
No,
Say that again.
I think acknowledging and maybe even just guessing at what that person is feeling instead of you having the floor is, gosh, I really want to hear how this is for you right now. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's so important. After you speak your piece, asking the person on the other end, how do you feel? What do you want to say in response? Yeah.
And really asking permission, because they're really not obligated even to respond in any way that's civil at that moment, right?
Good point.
It's so traumatic for that person to hear those words that maybe they can't react versus respond, right? Yeah. They're just reactive and they don't even know what the next step is. Their life has become just shaken at that moment. So giving that person permission not to speak. Like, do you need some time?
Yeah, good point. Definitely. So far, we've kind of been having this discussion predicated on the idea that, you're sharing that you've had an affair, but you want to stay in the relationship. What if you're saying something different? What if you're saying, I've had an affair and I don't want to stay in the relationship, or I don't know if I want to stay in the relationship? What then? How does that change this?
Yeah, so hopefully the premise that the share comes from is that you want to share your truth. And if part of that truth is, I want to move beyond this relationship, or I want to explore expanding the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be a very difficult conversation as well. Is, gosh, this was a behavior that I participated in, and it's added some joy and excitement to my life. And I don't know that I want this necessarily to end,
Yeah.
how you would feel about this, but could we explore other sexual options? Are you even willing to have this conversation with me?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Different configurations of our partnership, perhaps.
Right.
Yeah. Now, this comes up a lot with folks that I work with. What happens if you tell your partner that you've had an affair and then they have all kinds of questions for you, such as, what were the specific sexual things that you guys did? Did you go on dates? Were you really on that business trip that week, or were you off in somewhere romantic with this other person? What if you get all kinds of questions that you don't really want to answer?
Yeah, so I caution people on giving a lot of detail about sexual specific behaviors and where you went. Is, you know, what I would encourage the person who's hearing these questions is, what is your partner really asking? And what are they really needing right now? And to interpret these questions, right? And that's really part of the NVC practice, is what is your partner really feeling right now? And it could be things like, do you not find me attractive anymore? Did you need more excitement than I was willing to bring to our relationship? How many, why did you choose not to be truthful with me? Were you afraid of how I might respond? And of course, there's going to be curiosity, right? And not to judge that, to say, gosh, I'm sure you must have 1,000 questions. And I think to really be honest and to be sensitive to that person who's already probably really highly charged is, I really hear how curious you are about this. But I can't imagine that if I answered any of these questions, that it would contribute in any way to more understanding and more closeness for both of us.
And what if they don't like that response? How do you hold firm to your
Right.
no?
And I really, I hear how frustrating that must be for you right now, for me not to be able to respond. But I just need to stay in my truth right now. And even that word to you might feel very alienating, because you are telling yourself that I haven't been truthful and I haven't been truthful in the past. But yet it's really important to me to keep these sexual activities and the specifics of that outside relationship more private.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not because I want to punish you with that or hold it over your head. It's just, it's something that happened, and I don't see how it could possibly contribute.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I personally believe that we all have the right to say no. Like, I am not going to share this with you. And I think it's also kind and important to share your reasons why.
Yeah.
But what about the person on the other end? What about the person who desperately wants answers to these questions and thinks that they have a right to know these answers?
Mm-hmm.
What does the nonviolent communication perspective say to that person?
Wow. So number one, just honor the question, right? Oh, I get it. I get it that you really want to know.
No. I mean, like, let's say that you are speaking directly to someone who wants to know all of the details of the spouse's extramarital affair. Not speaking as the spouse, but speaking as you, Joyce, the nonviolent communication
Yeah.
specialist. What do you tell them?
So maybe I'm just confused. What am I telling the partner who wants to know?
Yeah. How do you counsel them? Yeah.
Okay. So to really connect with their deep pain and perhaps deep disappointment, and that questioning of, what kind of a partner am I? How did I contribute to this? And then to really kind of give space for their feelings of anger and deep sadness around that breach, really
Yeah.
to have their feelings truly heard. And part of that curiosity is, how do I measure up and to this person that they stepped out with? Who are they in their life? Do I even matter to them anymore? Right? And to be able to hear that, I think is really important.
Yeah. So in other words, to take ownership of your own pain
Right.
and to explore it in ways that may be really challenging.
Yeah, and to be able to really sit with empathy and compassion for that pain, for those painful words that you just heard. How very challenging this must be for you right now. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And what's bubbling up for you?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's almost like we need to be the container for our partner's truth telling. And that might be more than someone can hold at that moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Switching back to, the person who's giving the disclosure.
Yeah.
I think this is such an important question, both within the context of relationship stuff, such as infidelity, and also in so many other situations in life. How do we admit quote unquote wrongdoing without going overboard? Or put differently, how do we draw the line between accepting responsibility and accepting blame?
Yeah. So that's the delicate dance, right? To own our choices, to own our behaviors. I want to accept the responsibility for stepping out of our committed relationship and our understanding. Is that it's freeing for the person. Hopefully that was their intention, is to really come from that heart space of, I'm needing to tell you what's happened and how I have made choices and participated in behaviors that didn't honor our relationship. Right? And not putting the blame on your partner. And I step out and then rationalize behavior.
Yeah.
Is being able just to be with that.
Yeah.
And
And what
you don't have to be the designated bad girl or bad boy for stepping out.
Yeah. Accepting responsibility for the fact that your behaviors may have been out of line with the agreements of your relationship, out of line maybe with your own values, but that doesn't make you a terrible person. Yeah. That's a challenging dance for so many of us. Now, I know there was an example that we talked about earlier that we were going to discuss, and now I can't remember the specifics of the example, but I know it was important. So remind me what they were, and let's talk about that.
Okay. So this is, I think, what could be a typical occurrence in a relationship is if someone comes home from work and their partner is immersed in a project. Let's say they're on the computer and they're tapping away and not acknowledging their partner when they walk in the door. Is, what are you feeling at that moment to be able to tap into that? What are you saying to yourself? And what are you saying about your partner, right? Because our feelings can then lead to choices and behaviors. So if I walk in and my partner doesn't acknowledge me, right? If I can say, oh, I'm feeling really annoyed, I'm feeling sad and upset, right? Now I can just sit with that and just let that percolate for a bit. Because when we come from that place, it can be highly charged and we can almost go into attack mode, right? And then it is also full of expectation and questioning, why didn't my partner acknowledge me? and it can go into judgment with our partner, right? So if we can tap in one more time to what we're feeling and what are we truly needing right now, is maybe I'm tired, maybe I'm exhausted and just want my partner to know, to let me know that I matter to them, right? And can we set the table for one another to have this discussion later? Or can I be with my own feelings long enough for this to settle a bit and then create a space where we can have a deeper connection? React.
Absolutely.
Right? Because I can tell myself, oh, my partner doesn't care for me, right? And if I stay on that track, then I allow those feelings to percolate. What's wrong with them, right? And then I can justify, well, other places that I go, people acknowledge me. When I walk in, even to Target, people say, hi, how are you? My partner didn't do that, right? My partner's bad.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And that's how situations can snowball and lead to relationship breaches.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. The stories we tell ourselves create our feelings about our life circumstances, and our feelings give rise to the actions we take. And the actions we take have consequences or outcomes associated with them. And yeah, this is how we create our relationships, for better and for worse. Absolutely. Yeah. So it sounds like what you're saying is get really clear on, what you believe to be true about your partner's actions, and take responsibility for the stories that you're telling yourselves and the feelings that those stories create, instead of just automatically blaming your partner for what you believe to be true.
And part of NVC practice is to have the intention of kindness and compassion for self and the other. So we're going to hold this space. Gosh, my partner must be really immersed in what they're doing, and they need to concentrate right now. And they can't give me the attention that I'm longing for, instead of making them wrong for doing what they're doing.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah.
And if we can start from that place of kindness for self, gosh, it'd be so lovely if I walked in and my partner went, yay, hi, honey, right? It'd be really sweet.
Sure.
And so the sweetness of your partner concentrating on what they're doing and being able to hold both of those energies.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's great. I love the intention of having compassion for self and other. I think we could all use more of that.
Sure.
Thanks so much, Joyce. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
Thank you.
Do you want to let listeners know how they can find you or reach you if they have questions for you?
Okay. I can be reached via email at peaceworkstogether@gmail.com.
And I think you spell works, WERKS.
ERKS, yes.
Okay. So peaceworkstogether@gmail.com.
Right.
And that's works with an E.
Yes.
Well, thanks so much again, Joyce.
Thank you, Marie. It was wonderful.
Lovely having you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Your Secret is Safe with Me with Dr. Marie Murphy. Make sure to click subscribe to get updates on our latest episodes.